Welcome to Storycomic Presents, where we interview amazing storytellers and artists. This is episode 526. I'm your host, Barney Smith of Storycomic.com, and my guest today is a returning guest, Frank Walk, the creator behind Pigmacast Studio, a colorist, writer, and maker who's been building a career by doing the work from multiple angles: sequential art, full color rendering, and now a growing original universe of his own. Frank's latest project is on Kickstarter, Hellstones Into the Fray, a supernatural action comic that's built around a simple promise: big momentum, big stakes, and a world where power, faith, and survival are tangled up together. It's the kind of indie book that aims for blockbuster energy, but still wants its character to bleed a little from the choices they make. So today we're going to be talking about what it takes to build an action-forward supernatural series, how a colorist thinks about the story on the page, and why Kickstarter has become the place where ambitious indie comics can swing big without asking anyone's permission first. Frank, I am excited to talk to you again.
Same. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah.
I'm super excited. I'm glad book one is out or going to be out on Kickstarter soon, and we can finally start talking about it. I've had all of these stories and lore in my head for so long, just eagerly wanting to talk about it. But I'm, not allowed to until each little section comes out.
and so I know, like, you were on back in September talking about Hellstones. It was basically issue 0, and now we're going to be talking about issue 1. So when did Hellstones first show up in your head? Was it an image, a character, or was there a scene that you just couldn't shake?
Yeah, it was in my head for a long time before I even knew what to do with it. I was working at a day job, and I was having a slow day, a boring day, and I just decided to do a little creative writing. And I, was like, okay, let's make a female character. And I was like, okay, what kind of female character would I want to make? And I was like, I want her to be like this rough and tumbly, like, can stick her own ground, maybe has a little sass, a little attitude. And I started just with Sam. Just did a little character development just to kill some time. And then I spent the rest of the day building a one-page concept of, Sam and the Hellstones and the two major factions. And that was it. It was just a little concept, little exercise. Hey, maybe this will be a D&D campaign. Maybe this will be nothing. It was fun, though. And I kept finding myself over the years kind of rediscovering it. And once I got more into the indie comic space, I was like, this would be a really cool comic. And I sat down and just wrote my butt off for a really long time. And now we're making it happen.
So explain the title Hellstones.
Yeah, Hellstones comes from the ancient artifacts that are the sources of power in the story. They're coined Hellstones because they're actually fragments, fossilized fragments of Lucifer's wings. When he was cast out of heaven, he had his wings clipped, and those wings kind of floated through space and time and decayed and eventually landed on Earth, still imbued with some of that essence that gives them magical abilities and powers.
And now, last time you were on, you're talking about how what were some of the powers. Do you want to remind our listeners and viewers what those powers were?
Sure. Let's see if I can remember. So yeah, we have. The only reason why I say see if we can remember is because I recently went through and gave them all names. They didn't have names before, and I was like, oh, I should probably do that. But we have Hellstones that give the ability for flight. We have Hellstone that gives the ability for supernatural strength. The Hellstone that Sam has, that we can see in that image there, the green Hellstone, that actually gives her a heightened intuition and awareness and speed and nimbleness, dexterity. There's Hellstones that allow for someone to walk between shadows. Hellstones that allow for little mental manipulation, and others. But there's a total of 7 stones.
Okay. All right. And so what is, from a world building perspective,
Mhm.
what's one rule that you locked in early in your writing that you refuse to break?
Making Sam feel real.
Mm.
That's like the rule for me. I will write and rewrite and rework a panel over and over again if I have to, if I feel that Sam isn't connecting with me on a human level.
It's interesting, depending on how a writer looks at a story or how an artist looks at a story. As a colorist, how does your career as a colorist affect how you put this story together?
Yeah, it to be quite honest, it's a little maddening at times, because I have to, compartmentalize all these different duties as being the writer, the creator, the producer, the editor, the colorist. So I've kind of got to put those different hats on and switch my focus a lot. But the more I'm doing it, the more I can kind of be aware as I'm going. But being a colorist is a big part of it, because when I'm planning out a scene, like the one that you see on this page here, for example, I'm going, this needs to be an intense moment, and it needs to feel heightened. So the colors I'm using on this, we're going to see a lot of those greens and yellows, because those from a color psychology perspective, provoke intensity. So I try to think of those things as I'm developing.
Remind people too, with issue 0 that came out late last year, where does that leave off, and where does issue 1 take up?
Yeah, absolutely. So the prologue really just introduces people to the world of Hellstones, lets them know who the main character is, and hey, there are these stones that do these things. Kind of nice and easy way to lean in. Book 1, Into the Fray, jumps right in. Sam's running through jungle. There's action happening, but then she has a moment to pause and reflect, and she reflects on kind of how she got here from the prologue. So it's almost an immediate thing. There's just kind of some travel time. You don't get from, the suburbs to the jungle, right away. So there's a little bit of time that passes, but it's almost immediate.
Regarding the Hellstones, is this something that is like unknown to the general world, or is this something that is known, and are there antagonists that are also searching for these stones?
For the most part, they're pretty clandestine. The larger populace doesn't really know about them or anything like that per se, but not too hard to figure out if you know the right people or see the right things happen.
Okay. And so where do you see the story? Is it finite, or is it open-ended, or how does this work?
Yeah, the story as is currently is a 13-book series.
Okay.
And that's it. It tells Sam's adventure from beginning to end right there.
Okay.
There is, of course, room to continue to develop and grow, especially given like the historical context that I kind of laid in book 0, of kind of implying that other persons of power throughout history may have had Hellstones, like Cleopatra, Genghis Khan, things like that. I think it would kind of be neat to pass the torch to maybe another writer and say, hey, tell me a story, or tell me a small series about Genghis Khan and how he had a Hellstone. How did he get it? And how did that help him rise to power in his time?
Well, hey there. If you're enjoying our podcast, don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. Your support means the world to us and helps us keep this show going. We love hearing from you, so any feedback is welcome. And thank you for being a part of our podcast family and for all your support. It truly means a lot to us. But are you going to have like picking like different color themes each episode? That would be fun too. Yeah.
A little bit, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely.
This one has like a green background, and it's like,
yeah,
because it's a green stone. And now I'm just looking at these images. It's really green heavy. Is the whole issue like this?
Yeah, there's a big chunk, maybe a third of the book that takes place in a cave. So we're looking at lots of like purples and browns and stuff at that time. But yeah, that's intentional.
There's a subgenre that I love, and it's like those like international like Indiana Jones-esque adventure type like genres. I'm getting the impression this isn't a superhero comic. This is like, well, how would you describe the genre of this comic?
Yeah, it's not exactly a superhero comic. I mean, it has powers, it has action,
Right.
Larger than life moments, but I see it more as a supernatural action adventure.
Okay.
It lives somewhere between horror, adventure, and modern fantasy for me.
Okay. And so, how often do you see you coming out with issues? An issue a year? How is this? What's your pace for this?
Well, I actually want to. I've already started ramping up production. I want to do 3 a year.
Wow. Okay.
It's aggressive. It's a lot, but I'm also a fan, and there's nothing I get more aggravated by than having to wait a year to get the next. And I also don't want my fans to go through that, and I don't want people to forget either. And for selfish reasons, I don't want to be working on this for the next 10 years. I want to tell the story, and I want to tell it yesterday.
But and so, are you giving yourself a deadline then? Like, you want to make sure the series finishes in 5 years or 10 years, or what's your?
Sort of. Not a hard deadline, because life happens, and and got to plan for the unexpected. So, but I do want to keep pace for three a year until it's done. As it stands currently, this book launches on Kickstarter July 1st, but the artist I have working on book 2 is already on the final 6 pages of art for the next book.
Wow. Okay.
So as soon as this Kickstarter ends, I'll have all the pages and I'll start coloring, and then hopefully October, November, we're looking at the next book release.
Was there any point with like Sam or any other characters went off in a direction that you weren't planning?
Yeah. Oh, big time. So when I decided to buckle down and write the series, I'm not a writer. I like to write just creatively, just as an exercise. I'm also a forever DM when it comes to D&D, so I know a little bit about world building and putting some things together. But I was like, well, I know how the story starts because I wrote that 1-page concept, but where's the end? What happens in the end? So I started writing the end, and then I kind of just started hopping back and forth, going, well, if that's the end, then X has to happen.
Right.
So I've got to do that. And then if that happens, how do you get from there to there? And I had to keep in mind the character development and going, okay, this is who Sam is as a person, as a character. So if this has to happen, how would she react? And I let those kind of guide the story. So a lot of the time when I was writing, I was kind of surprising myself a little bit, because I was like, oh, I that's great. She would think that, given this scenario, given that scenario, and who she is, she'd have to go that way. So I was constantly surprising myself, to the point to where I had to rewrite a couple of entire books because I was like, but I like this other thing better. And I didn't expect it to go there, so I got to scrap it, or maybe take pieces of it and try and shoehorn some of the cooler stuff in over here. But yeah, absolutely.
And you were in a situation like, man, all right, now I have to rewrite that because this is not where I wanted her to go.
yeah, a little bit, but when you have ADD and you hyper focus, you just just go. I get
Yeah.
tunnel vision, and I will lock myself in my studio for an entire weekend and just not even talk to anybody. Just
And where do you see after the fact with this becoming your own IP? What other genres do you see or mediums do you see using Hellstones in?
um, I think it's an interesting enough and different enough and flexible enough story to really go anywhere. I was actually just talking with my wife not too long ago, and she was like, this could actually just be a really good just book.
Right.
And so I was like, kind of thinking about that too. I was like, yeah, why not? And maybe it would definitely give me the opportunity to expand a lot more on a lot of the subtleties and nuance and details. With comics, you're kind of limited because you got to keep the pacing going, and you got to blend the storytelling, like words on page, with the visual medium, and that happens kind of quick, and you got to really compress a lot of that stuff.
Hmm.
But in a book, I mean, give me 400 or 500 pages, I can tell the same story, but there's going to be so much more detail.
It's like, talking to other writers is that who are writers by trade who are writing a comic book realize that they don't need to describe a scene because that's what the artist is doing on their behalf.
Mm-hmm.
What did you learn about writing a script for a comic that surprised you?
That I'm probably making it way harder on myself than I need to for that exact reason. Um, I'm not a writer by trade. I've never created a comic before, which is kind of freeing because that means I don't have all these rules that I have to adhere to, and I could just kind of do my own thing and not feel any way about it. Just I felt that was the best path that way. But for the reasons you're saying is, I wrote out this entire story, and then I had to go backwards, and then I had to start going, okay, well, I've got let's say 200 pages. What are the main beats of that? How do I chop that down? And how much of that translates into a comic? And then how do I take those words and throw out 90% of them because now you need to show, not tell as much. So I end up having to rework the story probably 4 times over, just in different ways, because I didn't know what I didn't know about the process.
What's is there a particular issue, and you don't have to say why, but is there a particular issue that you just can't wait for your readers to read because there's a really good scene in it?
Yeah, yeah. I actually think the third act, I think the last like 3 books combined is one that I so can't wait to get there. 'Cause, I mean, this book is full of twists and turns anyway, but I mean, some really cool stuff happens.
Right. Now, and also too, I do want to highlight as well, Frank. I mean, we're talking about Hellstones, but you also do talk a little bit about your tutorials.
Sure, yeah, I would love to. That's not something people normally bring up. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm a servant at heart, to be quite honest. I love mentorship. I love teaching. And I love sharing knowledge. I don't believe in gatekeeping. A lot of people, especially in a niche community like comic books, get kind of gatekeepy with information. And I just don't believe in that. So I try on occasion to put out a couple of tutorials in hopes that people might find it helpful or useful. Aside from the tutorials, I used to live stream a lot on YouTube. I'd live stream me, rendering a page or something, and invite people to ask questions about the process. Some people even still to this day email me or message me on social media to ask me questions about a process, and I'm happy to take time for those people.
Right.
Unfortunately, I didn't have a lot of mentorship in this space. I kind of had to figure it all out on my own, and I I don't want people to struggle. This should be fun. It should be freeing, and anything I can do to help that process and help that person out. So that's I love it.
And do you see yourself also too? Is that how important is coloring digitally as compared to doing it with pen and ink on paper?
Yeah, they both definitely have value, right? If you're doing something physically on paper, um, it's fantastic because now you actually have a physical, tangible product. Not only can you scan it in for your digital prints, uh, whether it be a digital print of that image or putting it into a comic book, but now you have something of value that you can actually sell as a unique item as well,
Mm.
which is fantastic. The upkeep, the cost, and everything of replacing your Copic markers or your high end pencils or your inks and stuff, that's where it gets you in the long run. I made the decision to switch over to digital for that exact reason.
Okay.
It costs more upfront, but it's paid for itself time and time again at this point going digital, just
Right.
because I don't have all those upkeep. I lose out on having that physical medium. I don't have that extra something to offer, but I can work a lot faster. It's more efficient. I have an undo button. Having an undo button has spoiled me. But don't get me wrong, I still enjoy, busting out some acrylic paints and doing some painting for myself, and or using spray paints and finding the physical medium outlets still. But
Right.
as far as comic book workflow, digital works for me.
Excellent. All right. And so Frank, remind people if they're interested in learning more about you and your work, uh Pigmacast Studio, that's the place to go.
That's
Pigmacast.com.
right. Pigmacast.com has links to all of my socials. It has my email address. It has my bodies of work, acts as a portfolio as well, other services that I offer, other projects that I'm working on. And if you feel the need to reach out, if you have questions about the comic creating process, the writing process, any of it, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm happy to have a conversation.
Right. And also make sure that you back and check out his Kickstarter, which um, it which is live, not during this, not at as of this recording, but it will be live when you watch this. And that the people can actually go to Pigmacast Studio and just click on you'll have a window right in the front when they go in, and they can just click on it and support Hellstones.
That's right. Yeah, I put a pop up ad there to make it nice and easy for everybody.
There you go. All right. And Frank, this means you're gonna have to come back on when you have issue 2 coming out.
Hey, as long as you're willing to have me, I'll be on every time.